The world is vast. That's the intro. A few months ago, I discovered this Rate Your Music Charts video which showcases the highest rated album from every country in the world. Now I know what you're thinking. Rate Your Music, a bunch of incel scum of the earth, terminally online people use that website. And you're not wrong. However, I like to think there's at least a small base of people that use that website that are just universal music lovers, and this video is a really good resource to have. So I went through this video and I listened to every single album on it. Kind of. There were some records on it where some guy just plays a lute for 45 minutes because I guess that's the only album they could scrunch up from that country. So I didn't listen to those in full. However, I tried to listen to all of them pretty extensively, and I think I have a good bunch of records that I'm gonna go through today. Now, I'm not gonna be going through records like my Bloody Valentine's love list for Ireland. I'm not gonna be going through Radiohead for the UK, because who wants to hear a review of In Rainbows for the billionth time? Not going to be going through any of Bjork's catalog for Iceland, just because I feel like if you clicked on this video, you've probably already heard all of those artists. The goal of this video is to show you some more obscure artists from more obscure nations, and you can go check them out if they seem interesting. I need to sneeze. Oh. Criteria for this: the artist only had to be born in this country. They could have been born as a 1-year-old in Kenya and migrated to the US. It still counts as a Kenyan record. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be able to make this video. Anywho, let's get into this, starting with Antigua and Barbuda is a small island nation in the Caribbean, surrounded by Grenada, the Bahamas, sort of in that region of Central America, right below the United States. This Roland Prince record, Color Visions, is a completely instrumental record, and it's really not anything groundbreaking. However, if you are looking for some study music, for some cleaning music, just general background music, I think this is a great record to check out. And also the Samba de Unity song, the first song on the record, I put it on in the middle of a very intense snowstorm on my drive home, and it relaxed me so much I don't think I would have got home without it. If you live in the US and you're watching this, I assume you know where the Bahamas is. Maybe you've even been there and had a little pina colada. But it's a nation of islands right off the coast of Florida. And this Exuma record is an extremely unique album that, in my opinion, is very ahead of its time. While keeping the spirit of traditional Bahamian music, it also mixes elements of US rock and pop and even soul. The lyrics are very conscious, focusing on religion, folklore, even some social commentary. My favorite part of this record is the unique voice and soulful delivery of the lead singer. I think he just goes by Exuma, but I'm not 100% sure. The vocal passages are so powerful and they make you want to sing along in an almost tribal sort of fashion. I feel like if you didn't know this album came from an island nation, you'd probably figure it out pretty quickly. It also came out in the 70s and is very conceptual, super ahead of its time in regards to concept albums. Bahrain. Is it Bahrain? Bahrain. I don't know how to pronounce it. Bahrain. We're gonna call it Bahrain. Bahrain is a tiny island nation in the Persian Gulf, surrounded by Saudi Arabia and Qatar. I have heard this, not 100% sure if it's true, but I've heard it in some of the books I've read and some of the geography podcasts I've listened to. But apparently, Bahrain is sort of where a lot of Saudi Arabians go to party and things like that, because it's just a wee little island. However, this record itself, this Osiris record, is very serious. The lyrics on this record are completely in English, so it's easy to follow along with, and the lyrics themselves are really profound and kind of underrated. I'm not sure how this record didn't gain more popularity over the years. It is a prog rock record with a lot of Egyptian and Arabic flavor. Osiris, the lead singer, was very into Egyptian culture and things like that, so you can definitely constantly see that pop up in the lyrics. And also, the album just sounds like you're on this epic journey through the Sahara Desert, going through pyramids, riding camels, and doing things like that. If you like guitars and multi-passage sort of songs and a journey through the Sahara Desert sounds cool to you, I would definitely give this one a spin.
Mensageiro natural.
We now venture to South America in Brazil. I'm sure most of you know where Brazil is. I don't have a lot to say about this record, but I will say I think it works better in a playlist sort of format than an album format. It is kind of all over the place, and you got two different artists sort of playing with their own sounds. However, when these sounds hit, they really hit, and you get some absolutely beautiful songs on this record. Specifically the song, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but specifically the song Passeio de Janela is pure ear candy. It's the song I played in the little clip. But yeah, most of the album is just soft rock mixed with this sort of folk sound. If you like Latin music, then this one's definitely worth listening to. Now we transition east to China, where we get the album that I like to call Chinese Black Country New Road. While there aren't as many instrumentalists involved with this project, a lot of the passages and horns and things like that really remind me of Black Country New Road in a way that they're very epic and grand. It's not as emotionally in-depth as Black Country New Road, but if you like the sort of prog sound that Black Country New Road has, then you'll probably like this album. This is another record that sounds like an epic journey, except instead of going through the Sahara, this one sounds like you are going through ancient Chinese temples, mountains, things like that. It includes lots of elements of jazz and rock. And I really like the lead vocalist's voice, so if that sounds intriguing to you, this is yet another one that you should go listen to. Denmark, of course, we have metal, because that's all that those Scandinavian nations love is metal. I'm just kidding. They have lots of other great stuff too, but they're known for a lot of metal in those sort of Nordic countries. And Denmark, with this Merciful Fate record, really come through. This is a super epic metal record, and it reminds me a lot of Black Sabbath in the sense that it's very accessible for a non-metal listener. I'm like a little bit of a metal listener, but not really. The singer sounds exactly like a mix of Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses and Robert Smith from The Cure. If you mix those two together and they had a baby, it would sound like this dude. The lush guitars sound like a more aggressive version of The Cure's guitars too, so if you're a fan of The Cure, I would definitely check these guys out, even if you're not into metal. And while this is a unique listen, I do think it still stays true to a lot of metal stereotypes. There will probably be metalheads that say this doesn't count as a metal record, it's only a hard rock record. But nah, it's definitely a metal record, and it's really good. Okay, so this record I know is not too crazy. There's nothing super groundbreaking or unique on it. However, after listening to what seemed like hundreds of hours of Latin street music, which isn't a bad genre, but when you listen to it that much, it starts to sound very repetitive. This album came through and felt very fresh to me. There's a very pure and lively feeling to it. Like, I feel like I'm sort of intermingling with the community while I listen to it. Well, El Salvador as a country has its issues still today. This album was released in the 80s when things were probably worse. Yeah, the record is all about bettering themselves as a country and sort of lifting up the people of El Salvador, which I think is really cool. It's very light, it's very hopeful in a time where not a lot of hope was for them, and yeah, I think it's a good portrayal of El Salvador as a country, and if you like that Latin street music sound, then this record is for you. Staying in Central America, we have this Guatemalan record, which came out of absolutely nowhere. What the fuck? So this record came out just a few years ago in 2019, and from an experience standpoint, this is a really cool drone synthy sort of electronic album. I personally think it would be great as a video game score, so Mob Freti, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but if you're watching this, you should see if you can get into some video game soundtracks. Yeah, from Guatemala, I was kind of just expecting more of the same sort of street music vibe, so this was a really pleasant surprise. It puts you in a very futuristic trance. Even the album art is very futuristic and was the thing that intrigued me a lot checking this out initially. The record itself is very beautiful and lush, but it's also scary. There's something kind of off-putting about it. Yeah, if you like drone, if you like ambient, this record is really good. You'll enjoy it. Alright, another record that came out of absolutely nowhere. For some reason, I feel like I've heard of Lem Kuja before, but I don't know where I would have. But yeah, this artist is from Amman in Jordan, and this album reminds me a lot of kind of future funk sounds. There's a lot of EDM slash, I don't want to say dubstep, but kind of dubstep influence in it. It kind of pivots from EDM to future funk to sample-based production throughout the entire record. It's like 20 songs, but every song's pretty short, so the listen goes by very quickly. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's super synthy, really good night driving music. If you're into like synthwave or chill wave, could be good for studying too, depending on the type of person you are. But yeah, this is very clubby, very fun, very enjoyable, quick electronic songs. Staying in that area, we cross Saudi Arabia and end up in the very hot nation of Kuwait. It's one of the, I think it's the hottest country in the world, if I'm not mistaken. But in the same sense as Bahrain, it's a very small nation on the Persian Gulf. And wow, Fatima took me into an absolute state of trance with this album. This album feels like it takes you into this Middle Eastern temple and transports you 5,000 years into the past, but the music on the record is what's playing while you're going through that transition. From an experience standpoint, this is one of my favorite ones I listen to from this big list of world albums. It's so eerie and creepy, yet Fatima's vocals are there to kind of comfort you, but they also kind of freak you out at the same time. You're not really sure whether you should trust her or not. And finally, Zandak, the name of the last song, takes you back to the present. It's very chill, just like typical Persian Gulf type music, and you wake up wondering what the hell just happened to you. That's the experience I had with this Medieval Femme record. Now we're traveling to Lebanon to get one of the craziest stories of this video. I tried to include a couple albums that had really interesting stories that paired with the album, and with Assam Hajadi, I think I pronounced his name right, released this album in 1977, and he actually recorded this album with various other artists while exiled in France. So in the 70s, he was forced to leave Lebanon because of Syrian intervention and ended up in Paris in France, and he recorded this album with Algerians, Iranians, and also some local French people. And if you think this record is good just for being an album, wait until I tell you, he made this album in one day. That's all the time he had to record it. He brought all these people together and recorded this entire thing in one day. This thing has beautiful vocal performances, unique synths and strings, and it is so cohesive for only having a day to be recorded. There are some odd song structures on it. I don't know if that's intentional or if that's kind of just how it turned out because the album had to be so rushed, but I think you'll be very impressed if you go listen to this and check it out. Now we're going a couple thousand miles west back to Portugal. This album reminded me a lot of a jazzier Sweet Trip or Stereo Lab, especially from a vocal standpoint. I don't have a whole lot to say about this album, it's just really pleasant on my ears. It's kind of like the album I label is objectively good music. Like, there's nothing you can really say is wrong with it. It's well produced. I would say for like taking a walk on a sunny day or going on a picnic, it's the kind of vibe I get from this record. Kind of proggy, there's a lot of jazz and even some electronic bits on a song like Anywhere in Space Time. Yeah, didn't really take many notes on this one, just remembered thoroughly enjoying it and wanted to throw it on here. Moving to the middle of the world with Turkey. Hip hop in other nations is really difficult for me because I feel like one of the main ingredients to me liking hip hop is sympathizing or understanding the lyrics, and this Turkish record is completely in a different language that I don't understand. However, I can still hear the dark, gritty boom bap production that is absolutely killer on this whole thing. Reminds me of like Griselda or Alchemist production. Like I said, it's hard to relate to hip hop when you can't understand the lyrics. However, the flows and energy on this record are absolutely off the charts. I believe this is a rapper-producer duo, but I could be wrong. However, it sounds like the same guy is rapping the whole time. If you want a really great piano beat, check out the song Tortu. Moving into Africa, the Central African nation of Uganda also has one of the heaviest stories on this list that really contextualizes this record for me. I don't know if his name's Jeffrey or Joffrey, we'll call him Jeffrey, but his father was a cabinet minister in the country and he got assassinated by a dictator named Idi Amin when he was in power. And Jeffrey had to escape or else he was probably next. So luckily he had a good group of friends that helped him escape across the border to the eastern nation of Kenya. After that, he eventually made his way into Paris, France to keep pursuing his music career. And believe it or not, Brian Eno actually helped produce this record. While this album, in my opinion, can get a little bit scattered, it's a really good piece of music that showcases the struggles this guy went through and how much he had to go through to make it. Let's calm down a bit after that story with Jorge Drexler's Eco. This is a very chill, accessible, soft rock / pop record. I feel like this is probably the type of things that they play in restaurants in Uruguay, like going out to a fancy dinner, let's throw on some Jorge Drexler. But yeah, a lot of these records I have modern, like American comparisons to. This one, I don't really have that. You'll just get lots of beautiful singing and strings, good vocal performances and instrumentation all around. If you just want a pleasant record to listen to while you're going on a drive for a sunny day, this is a good one for that. And finally, possibly another one you may have heard of, but we got Backwash from Zambia, who migrated to Canada, but is from Zambia. So this record is harrowing, scary, aggressive, trap metal. There's elements of hip hop, elements of metal, elements of horrorcore, and it really does an amazing job putting you into Backwash's mental state. So many angry songs. I love the concepts, the callbacks to religion and things like that are really cool, and Backwash describes her music as a healing process where she grants herself permission to be angry, and you can definitely tell. But also, hearing all these songs and her experience, it gets you really angry for her, and I think that's important when you make that kind of music. Otherwise, it just comes off kind of bleh. However, Backwash does an amazing job at doing that and created one of my favorite hip-hop albums of 2021. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I've linked the Rate Your Music Charts video here if you want to check out the other albums that I didn't go over on this list. Let me know what you think are albums worth checking out from other parts of the world, and I would love to go check them out and maybe do a part 2 to this. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you comment, like the video, subscribe. Really helps the channel. Thanks one more time, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.